Hello everyone, Voodoo here, and in today's video I'll be giving you guys the Vengeance Demon Hunter 10.2 guide. Now apologies if the video is a bit echoey. I did just move into a new place, as you can see behind me, and I'm still working on getting everything set up. The echo will probably be around for a little bit, but will go away as I continue to furnish the place. Anyways, in this video I'll be giving you guys the talents, rotations, defensive usage, gear, and all the stuff that you need to play your Vengeance Demon Hunter in patch 10.2. Before we get to that, make sure you like the video and subscribe. And with that out of the way, let's get on to the video. Now, of course, the first place to start is going to be talents. So what you see before you here is the raid talent build for Vengeance Demon Hunter. Now this build is pretty set in stone. There's not a lot of changes to make with it. The only real ones are going to be in the top of the tree, swapping out meteoric strikes and calcified spikes for Sigil of Silence, and then just like extended spikes, I guess, just for something. Realistically, this will just let you take stuff for ads. You can also just drop extended spikes or something else. You know, you don't really need to drop anything there, but those are the options to drop if you want to pick up something else. Realistically though, not really a ton of things to swap out here. In the bottom, you can also swap out Darkglare Boon and Stoke of Flames to pick up stuff like Soul Carver, pick up things like Burning Alive, Feed the Demon. However, I would recommend just sticking with Stoke of Flames and Darkglare Boon, as they are the easiest. This is your pretty easy, simple, all-around raid build, good for basically every raid fight in the upcoming tier. For Mythic Plus, I would recommend swapping to something like this. Now, Mythic Plus is where the new talents are actually brought in, looking at things on the right side of our tree here, like Illuminated Sigils. Now, Illuminated Sigils is very powerful, giving you a ton of parry. Combining that with stuff like Cycle of Binding, Chains of Anger, just gives you a lot of sigil uptime. Now, you'll notice here that we're not taking Sigil of Chains. There actually are quite a few talent substitutions you can take in this build to get different outputs for you. The top one here, you can swap calcified spikes for Ascending Flame for some more damage. This is like 4% damage reduction versus a little bit more damage on Sigil Flame. That is a swap you can make. In the second row, your choice is coming down to 4 different things. You have a choice between, you basically have 2 points to put in one of 4 talents. So you take out the point in Volatile Flameblood and Soul Furnace and can choose to put it in any of these 4 nodes. At lower keys or most key levels, just using these 2 is probably going to be the best for you. When you do higher keys, putting 2 points into Painbringer is probably really good as well, or even 1 point here and 1 point into Painbringer, as this brings a lot of defensiveness. And if you're doing crazy MDI style pulls, then Sigil of Chains is fine. However, generally speaking, I wouldn't recommend it because we do have a ton of other good talents you have to drop to take that. And with double sigils, double Sigil of Silence, double Sigil of Misery, Chaos Nova, plus your group's other AoE stops, you're probably going to have enough AoE stops to not really need Sigil of Chains, but if you want it, you can drop either this point or this point and pick it up. In the bottom of the tree here, there are again some choices to have, as you have 1 point here to move around wherever you want. That point is Cycle of Binding. This is probably going to be the best option for you, as it gives you a lot of uptime on Illuminated Sigils. Your damage stuff with Legion Decree, which I for some reason don't have, but I should have. If we drop that for that, my apologies there. Anyways, a Cycle of Binding gives you a lot of uptime on your sigils, a lot of damage, a lot of utility, but you can drop it for something like Soul Carver if you want more priority damage, something like Stoke the Flames for just a little bit more AoE, easier content damage, or Feed the Demon if you want an easier time and don't have to worry about your Demon Spikes uptime. So lots of different choices to where you put these points. Again, these are kind of just baseline builds, but these are going to be your best builds for both Mythic Plus and Raid. All right, let's talk about rotation. So for Vengeance, the rotation is going to be very simplistic. The number one thing to do is just not delay your cooldowns. A lot of your rotation is going to be offensive focused because of the fact that you leech and heal yourself based on the souls you generate, based on the damage you deal because of frailty and stuff like that. So outside of needing to live and delaying stuff like meta, generally the best quality and thing to do is just use all your cooldowns on cooldown as close as you can. Now within that, obviously you want to sync things up with Frailty and with Fiery Brand whenever you can. For Frailty, you want to use Hunt at around 3 stacks, Elysian Decree at around 3 stacks, Soul Carver at around 6, and Fell Devastation at around 2 to 3 as well. And then also just kind of sync all your fire spells, so stuff like Fell Devastation, stuff like Soul Carver, Immolation Aura, and Sigil Flame with your Fiery Brand because of Fiery Demise. And then outside of that, you're just kind of using Soul Cleave. So, you know, it's really simplistic to work with. The other small thing is that Fellblade is going to be much better than Fracture because it gives you more Fury. It's a shorter CD. Sorry, not shorter CD, it's a shorter GCD, and it just lets you Soul Cleave more. Technically, it's a slight gain to Spirit Bomb whenever you have Fiery Brand up, but it's like 200 DPS, it's a lot harder to do. So unless you're fighting multiple targets, I'd recommend just kind of using Soul Cleave, because it's just going to be better. So it's very simple to do. We use our thing, we'll come in, Immolation Aura, and then just kind of rip a Fiery Brand, go right into just using Soul Cleave as much as we can. Use the Hunt here because we're at a certain number of stacks, and just kind of Soul Cleave. I got all my fire spells going on now during this window, and it's really simple. As you can see, I'm only really using Fracture, or I think it's Shear, I don't remember. I'm only really ever using my Soul Generator whenever I run out of other buttons to push, because of the fact that Fellblade is just really, really good because it's such a short CD, right? So here, we have everything lined up for a Fire Brand window. We use it right away. We go and we'll just Soul Cleave again. So a lot of Soul Cleaving. Basically, if you can Soul Cleave, you should be Soul Cleaving. It's just the best thing to do, and it's really, really easy. And that's single target. Not complex at all. Really, really easy. You're just kind of lining everything up with your Fire Brand. Here, I'm going to delay things a little bit to get Fire Brand with Fell Dev. Boom, use it. Use this, boom, and then I can Fell Dev. And that's single target. Not very hard, pretty simple, and pretty easy to do. So for your AoE rotation, it's going to be really, really similar to the single target rotation. A few small differences is that souls are a lot more important. So using Fracture over Fellblade is going to be much more of a priority because Spirit Bomb is just so good in AoE. On top of that, whenever you go between pack to pack, it's going to be very useful to try and save some souls from the pack before so you can open up with a bigger explosion. And then finally, it's good to save your Elysian Decrees for some of your Fiery Brand windows so that you can pump the most damage in them. Again, in Mythic Plus, a lot of your mitigation besides just using Demon Spikes is going to be based around your offensive rotation. So using your cooldowns as close to cooldown as possible is going to get you the most value. Using your Immolation Aura and Sigil Flame with your Fiery Brand and Fell Devastation during that window as well are going to be really good for you because you're pumping out more damage. More damage is good, helping you time the key, but also helping you survive more because of stuff like the leech you're doing. So if we go in here and we'll just throw a brand out right away because I'm pretty raw here. Throw a brand out, use our Sigil Flame, pop an Immolation Aura, build up some souls, use Fell Devastation, pump those souls out, drop a Sigil, build again, use my souls, and you guys kind of get the idea here. So it's useful to use all your abilities whenever you're at a certain number of faility stacks as well. Generally speaking, it's 3 or so on your primary target for your abilities. But as you can see here, the rotation is very simplistic. If I'm overcapping on Fury, I'll spend down with Soul Cleave. Otherwise, I'm going to build up to 4 souls in outside of meta and 3 souls inside of meta, and just kind of use that on Spirit Bomb. Use my Fell Devastation on cooldown as close as possible because of such a short GCD. And otherwise, I'm just pushing buttons and chilling and vibing, right? So little capped on Fury here, but it doesn't really matter. You can see I'm pumping out a lot of damage for just kind of doing tank AoE, right? So pretty easy AoE rotation, nothing too crazy, nothing too insane. Again, just making sure you're syncing stuff up as best you can with your Fiery Brand window, saving a charge of your Sigil so you can get more souls out of it just to really slam that damage home. And otherwise, nothing too crazy. So the damage rotations for Vengeance are pretty simplistic this tier because you're really not using a ton of the other offensive cooldowns you have in the tree. It's all about just building up Frailty, stack windows to 3 before you use the Hunt or Elysian Decree. Otherwise, just basically using all your buttons on cooldown. And that kind of holds true for most of Vengeance's things. For offensive cooldowns like the Hunt, like Elysian Decree and like Fiery Brand, you kind of just want to spend those on cooldown because of how short those cooldowns are. Fire Brand, of course, is a defensive option, which you can hold up and save a little bit. Again, you know, It's just such a short cooldown. Why save it too long? But you know, to each their own. It's good to use in a pack. For your defensive cooldowns, you actually have 3 pretty much. You have Brand, which again is a very strong cooldown, 40% defensive. Basically, just going to use that on cooldown, timing it up with any Fell Devastations whenever you can, just for more damage. And you know, short cooldown, so use it often. You have Fell Devastation, which is a 40-second cooldown where you can refund most of that cooldown. So if I go into this pack here, build up to 50, and I use it, we'll get most of it refunded because of this talent down here, Dark Glare Boon. So it's actually 28 seconds. So you're going to use that very often. It puts you into meta form, and meta form for Vengeance is very strong. It gives you 50% increased max health, 200% armor, and you just get more souls. And meta itself is now also a 2-minute cooldown. So you want to use meta basically on cooldown. You want to use Fell Devastation basically on cooldown. You want to use Firebrand basically on cooldown. So there's not a ton of holding your CDs for Vengeance. A lot of your tankiness is just by leeching damage from frailty, by healing with souls, by healing with Fell Devastation. And your only really active mitigation is Demon Spikes, which is, you can see in the bottom right of my tree here, gives you armor and parry chance. And the key here is you just always want to have one of these Demon Spikes on cooldown. So you're not capping on Demon Spikes. The only time you really want to cap on Demon Spikes is when you're in Demon form from either Fell Devastation. So, you know, if I'm going up here into Fell Dev form, I can push it, and then during this time period, during this 6-second buff of Demonic, I really don't need to use my Demon Spikes. When we're out of it, we'll roll a Demon Spikes here. So I got Demon Spikes rolling right now for about 5 seconds. Also ignore my buffs, my weakers are messed up. It's coming off, we'll just meta here. So now I have the meta cooldown up. While meta's up, I can just let my Demon Spikes things just continue to tick up. I really don't need to use them. And then once they are off, so here I'm going to use it because it's Demon Meta form's coming off soon. I'll use it, and now here, you know, I'm just letting it tick down as well. So the big key here is just to only use Demon Spikes while you're out of Demon form. That way you're not overlapping and kind of messing those up. And then again, with Sigil Flame, just keep the buff up as much as you can because of your tier set, which gives you the parry. We'll go over in the gear section. And just don't overlap. You can see here, if I spend another one, it doesn't put 2, it just kind of gives you like an extension, which is not really as good. The 20% doesn't really give as much damage as you'd like. So you're just kind of going to wait and spread those out and just make sure you're not kind of overlapping those if you have Ascending Flame especially. So pretty simplistic rotation wise, pretty simplistic defensive wise. It's all about just when you use your things and just kind of using them as much as you can on cooldown. All right, with that out of the way, let's talk about stats. So stats for all tanks really, but Vengeance in particular is going to be pretty simple. Eye level over everything. Eye level gives you agility, it gives you stamina, and it gives you armor, which is going to be the most useful for any tank out there kind of ever. So agility, stamina, armor, the most. However, outside of that, if their item level isn't that different, so neck and rings within 10, bracers and cloak within 7, and the rest within like 3 or so, then you can compare between stats. And those stats are going to be as follows. So Critical Strike is going to be your best one. The reasons for this is parry. Parry is really good when you get a lot of it, and because Vengeance has the new tier set with lets you get, you know, Sigil Flame, parry. They have really high Demon Spikes uptime, which gives you parry there. Parry is going to be a very valuable stat for a Vengeance Demon Hunter. Second stat is going to be haste. Haste just gives you more of everything. It gives you a shorter cooldown on basically all of your rotational buttons. Shear, Fracture, Immolation Aura, Fellblade, all that stuff is just going to be more often because of haste, which gives you more of your Sigil Flame, which is just a really good passive feedback loop. Versatility comes in third as just a nice passive damage and defensiveness proc, and then Mastery is in the rear. Mastery is just pretty bad. It gives you attack power and then also gives you just more armor from outside of Demon Spikes and inside of Demon Spikes. Not that good, but yeah, so crit's the best for both damage and defensiveness, followed by haste, followed by verse, and running the rear is mastery. All right, so with that out of the way, let's move on to gear. Now we're gonna break gear down into 3 different sections, and I will do a full best in slot gearing guide later on, probably in a week or so. But for embellishments, we'll start there. Embellishments, your best one is going to be Slimy Expulsion Boots. Again, you know, these go in the boot slot. pretty obvious there. It's a boot. These are just a pretty passive damage proc. They give you minus haste, which is not the best, but it's just a really strong damage proc. Well, I say really strong, but we're at the point right now where all embellishments are just kind of bad. So this is kind of the least worst of the options. So that's going to be the top one. You're going to always use that. At the start of the season, you're going to want to pair that with a toxic armor patch, probably on your wrists, crafted with critical strike and haste, of course. This just doubles the power of the boots and is strong. However, once you get 5 gems on your gear, so if we open my gear up now, obviously I have a lot of gems. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So once you get 5 gems, you're going to want to swap over to the other option, which is going to be Elemental Lariat. Lariat's very strong for Vengeance because it can give you a crit proc or a haste proc. You're going to want to have either one. You can sim it for yourself. Crit's very valuable. Haste is also very valuable. So you can sim kind of the offensive option. If you have low crit, then you can go the crit route. If you have low haste, you can go the haste route. Doesn't really change too much, but basically whenever you have 5 sockets outside of your neck, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so max sockets basically, swap over to that Lariat and use that one instead of the patch. So let's move on to tier sets. The tier set this time around is based around Sigil of Flame. Now it is a little worse than the one in 10.1, which has been nerfed, by the way. It's nowhere near as good as it was, just so we use the new one. But basically, whenever you attack a target afflicted by Sigil of Flame, your damage and healing are increased by 2% and your stamina is increased by 2% for 8 seconds up to 5. Now I am on PTR. I'm not on PTR here, sorry. PTR is closed right now. So I don't have the option to show you, but I'll throw it up on screen. So this applies for any target. So if you have Sigil Flame on 5 targets, you use Soul Cleave, you're going to hit all 5, you'll get 5 stacks. So pretty high uptime on this, basically 100% because they refresh the stacks. So not a big deal there. And then the 4 set is that Sigil of Flame periodic damage has a chance to flare up, giving you an additional soul fragment from a target, dealing some damage to them. And then every 40 Fury you spend reduces the cooldown of Sigil Flame by 1 second. Now this is a lower chance to proc in AoE. So the more targets you have the dot on, the less chance of proccing it becomes. I don't have the math on it right now, but that's how it is, just to kind of offset the fact that in massive pulls it would just go crazy. This damage also only happens to 1 target, obviously, and you get a little soul from it. And the Fury you get actually is a pretty sizable decrease in cooldown of Sigil Flame. You end up getting a lot of uptime on the buff there. In terms of best in slot tier, the one you want to drop is the legs. Legs is going to be the worst option for you, just in general, because it's the stats are the worst, right? So that's kind of the tier set. Nothing too crazy. Let's move on to trinkets and weapons. All right, so finally, let's talk about trinkets and other weapons. So in terms of defensive trinkets, there's only really one that you'd ever want, and even then it's kind of niche. And that is Prophetic Stone Scales from Iridocron, which is from the first half of Dawn of the Infinite. The Cheat Death trinket that gives you haste. Cheat Deaths themselves are kind of niche, but it's better than putting points in the Cheat Death in the tree itself, so it's there. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's there if you want it. If you want a bit more of a defensive slash offensive usage, then there's 2 really good trinkets. Gift of Ursine Vengeance from the Council of Dreams in the raid. This is a static agility thing. Every 3 seconds or so, whenever someone, either you or someone in your party gets dealt damage, you get agility. And then at 30 stacks of that, so roughly every 90 seconds, you get a buff that just does a ton of damage every time you get dealt damage. The other kind of in the middle trinket is Farak's Handed Rage Heart, which is just on an equip that pulses damage to everybody, and then you can use it every 3 minutes to give you a shield, and then you take basically 16% of that shield and do 17% of that shield's damage to everybody else. The shield is not as big as you think it would be, but it's pretty useful if you need a shield, and it does do pretty sizable damage. But realistically, if you want trinkets, the best 2 for you are going to be damage trinkets. The best one's going to be Cataclysmic Signet Brand from Smolderon. This is just an agility trinket that gives you a hasted RPPM of a buff that kind of stacks up and does a ton of damage. At 5 stacks, it deals damage to you as well, and at 15 stacks, it splits that damage to targets near your target as well, so it's really good for both AoE and single target. And then the other really good one is Augury of the Primal Flame from Farak. This is a static crit trinket. It's a hasted trinket. Whenever it procs your crits for the next few seconds, deal additional damage and can do so in AoE. So just kind of a nice damage trinket. So basically, for Vengeance, you don't really need defensive trinkets. If you do, cheat death trinket if you want kind of in the middle stuff, the shield from Farak or the Ursine Vengeance, and then if you want just damage trinkets, which you'll probably want for both Raid and Mythic Plus, Cataclysmic Signet Brand and Augury of the Primal Flame. For weapons, you want one of the raid weapons, which is a drop from Council of Dreams. This weapon just is a passive proc. It doesn't do like a crazy amount of anything. It's called Thornclaw's Claw. Sorry, it just does kind of damage in an AoE around you whenever it procs. And then you want a double time, which comes from the first part of Dawn of the Infinite. It just is a damage replication effect that just does a nice free 1% damage. That's kind of going to be it for gear. Otherwise, get some critical strike and haste stuff, prioritize eye level, and you'll be good. For consumables, just use all the crit stuff. So use a Ice Valve Corrupting Rage and a Buzzing Rune. Otherwise, gem and enchant with crit and stuff as you see fit. That's going to be it for my Vengeance guide for today. Shout out to people in the Vengeance Discord, Topple, Mera, Atame, and everybody else. If you want more details, ask down there, ask in the comments, or check out the Wowhead or Icy Veins guides. Both of those are very up to date and very useful, and you'll find all the info there. That's going to be it for my Vengeance stuff. I will have more Vengeance content, of course, not as much as Havoc is my main, but there will be Vengeance stuff around. So if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe and follow along. So with that, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoy your day and enjoy 10.2 and everything it comes to offer. Peace. A big thank you to all my channel members. Thank you to Andrew Keenel, Payne, Latand, Period, Brad Wisniak, Zuligan, Oxclamation, It's Bulk, and Howley. Thank you all of those people. You guys are great and appreciate the support you're giving me. If you want to support the channel and get a few cool perks in the meantime, click the link in the description. Brings you to a place where you can learn more about becoming a channel member. Thank you all so much. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.